Alright, here's how you can consistently lose body fat while eating more. The worst possible position you can be in when trying to lose body fat, get leaner, is dieting hard, putting in heaps of effort and sacrifice and hating it, and life just generally sucking as a result, and simultaneously not losing body fat consistently, reliably, or at all, and not being at the body composition that you want to be. You're making sacrifices, you feel like trash. You also have excess flab on you that you just want to be rid of. And this is sadly a reality for way too many people who are trying to improve their body composition, get a bit leaner, some definition, look good. The good news is that losing body fat does not have to be this way, and in fact, this sort of approach that's really difficult is never going to work. And so if this is the approach that you're taking, the experience that you're having, then doing more of it is only going to keep you stuck and get you more frustrated. And I know because I've been there and I've had plenty of students who have experienced the same thing. Forging on is not a way to get to your goal. You need a different approach. And the fortunate thing is that the approach that works and that I've seen consistently deliver incredible results is one where dieting is easy. It's such a smooth process physically that you don't even realize that you're doing it day to day, week to week. It fits into your routine, it's easy, it's simple, and at the same time you see fat coming off your body literally every week. You see the scale consistently moving down, you see definition improving basically every time you look in the mirror, and you only stop because you get too lean and reach the point where now you look skinny and you want to start gaining more muscle in order to look the best, the fastest. So I want to show you now how to put an end to starvation, the restriction, the difficult grind that leaves you stuck with body fat you don't want, and show you how you can actually reliably strip body fat, get leaner, and do it in a way that's easy and avoids any physical resistance. So you can actually get to that result as soon as possible. There's a few things that are counterintuitive when it comes to getting lean, dropping body fat. And one of those is the first, most fundamental, important thing that you get right before you even start to look at calorie intake and weight loss. And that is before you start attempting any form of weight loss to ensure that muscle gain is happening. If you actually want to not just lose weight, but lose body fat and get lean, get definition, get tone, you're going to need muscle mass so that you lose body fat and not just weight and don't just get skinny. This is the first point. If you also want to sustain the result when you get there and not just rebound straight back up and have this yo-yo effect with your dieting where you lose a bunch of weight and then your body screams at you to put it back on and it's never sustainable, then you need muscle mass so that when you are lean, you're actually at a healthy weight that your body's happy staying at. So there's no point us even starting a process of trying to lose weight unless you're severely overweight and have a lot of work to do. If you're somewhere in the 15 to 25% body fat range, trying to get leaner and look better, there's no point us even starting the weight loss process until we have the muscle gain process in place so that we're actually working towards a result that we want to get to that looks good and feels good, and B, so that once we get there, we actually can stay there happily and don't just lose the fruits of all our labor, because then what's the point of doing it in the first place? So the way that you do this is really simple, and these should be the foundations of your fitness strength routine if you want to look and function really well long term anyway. And so these are the things we want to get in place before we start looking at weight loss, fat loss. And they are firstly strength training, and secondly hitting a protein target. Strength training is what is going to signal your body to grow, to build muscle, get stronger, build mobility, all those other benefits. And so it's the first most important thing, because without that, then the body has no signaling to build strength and muscle. And getting sufficient protein in your diet on a daily basis is what then allows your body the building blocks it needs to build that muscle and grow stronger. I've talked about this plenty if you want to go and learn more about strength training and protein target. I'll link some videos you can go watch to learn more about that. The benefit of getting these things in place first is that they are going to help massively with the fat loss process, and you'll likely find, if you haven't got these things in place already, that as soon as you start resistance training and hitting a daily protein target, that you start losing body fat by default without even intentionally trying to restrict calories at all. So there are multiple reasons why starting here is a no-brainer. If you haven't got these things in place, go and figure those out first, and you may not even need to worry about the next steps. Okay, so assuming you've got strength training and a protein target in place, we can now look at potentially reducing body fat using a calorie deficit. Now, there are basically two levels on which we want to get things right in order to make the diet easy sustainable, and therefore actually work to get us the result we want in terms of losing body fat. And so we can look at this basically on a micro level and a macro level. On the micro level, this is the first place that almost all people get wrong, and I have gotten it wrong in the past and has screwed my efforts at getting leaner, and it stops a lot of people from ever making any progress with their fat loss, and then thinking that it's just too hard or they're not cut out to lose body fat and get leaner, which is obviously completely wrong. So to lose body fat, obviously you've got to hit a calorie deficit, consume less energy than your body requires on a daily basis over a certain period of time, so that it uses body fat to make up that energy gap. And over enough days of doing this, we end up with a reduction in our total body fat stores, and that's what looks lean and gives us that desired body composition. The number one mistake people make when implementing calorie deficit is eating too little. It makes sense that if you're trying to hit a calorie deficit, you would just make that deficit as big as possible, because the more deficit, the more energy gap, and then the more fat loss that occurs each day, right? In theory, yeah. But in practice, there is a limit to how fast you can lose body fat before your body starts to retaliate and grind things to a halt. If you go too hard and try and hit a deficit that's much bigger than around 20% or 500 calories a day, you can keep it up for a little while. Maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks. But what inevitably starts to happen is as your hormones start to get out of whack, you start feeling really shitty and irritable and low mood and low energy. Your hunger starts to jack up, and all you can think about is food and how much you want to eat. And eventually, one way or another, you stop hitting that deficit, either involuntarily because your body just forces you eventually to binge eat and consume way more calories than you intended to, or you just decide that it's not worth it because you feel horrible and you end the deficit yourself. Either way, a couple weeks, even in an extreme calorie deficit, is not enough time to lose a significant amount of body fat. You're never going to be able to reduce your body fat by 6 kilos in a couple of weeks, purely because it's just not physiologically feasible, at least not in a way that you'll be able to sustain. Losing body fat is much faster of a process than gaining muscle, but it still takes time. And so the solution here is simply to have a bit of patience and go at a pace that is sustainable for your body, because if you do, it means that you can actually keep going for long enough to reach your goal. And that is the key. It's not about how much you can get done in a week or 2 weeks. It's about how easily you can sustain it for 6, 8, 12 weeks so that your body has enough time to actually burn that body fat and make a significant change. So the general rule of thumb is that somewhere in the range of 0.5 kilo or a pound of body fat per week is, for your average person, sustainable level of body fat. If you've got more to lose, you can go faster. If you've got less to lose, you're leaner, or you're a smaller person, maybe it'll be slower, but that gives you a vague target to work towards. And so this is going to come from, as I said, hitting around a 400 or 500 calorie deficit per day, or aiming for a 20% reduction in your calories from whatever you need to maintain your weight. So if you're finding yourself yo-yoing with your diet, going really hard and then crashing and never being able to keep it up, it's probably not a problem with you or your willpower, it's a problem with your approach. And all you got to do is actually eat more, increase your calories up to a level that's still a deficit, but that you can actually comfortably sustain for weeks on end. And this can wiggle a lot of people out, because then they think, like, well, how do I even know I'm in a calorie deficit? And that is a great question, because you shouldn't really be able to tell, at least not until the latter end, 10, 12 weeks into your cut, or when you're starting to get really lean. And so the way that we verify that what we're doing is actually working is through data. We track our body weight, ideally every day, and get weekly averages. If that weekly average is coming down around 0.5 kilo every week, then you know that you are bang on and you don't want to change a single thing. If you're going slower, you can increase the deficit a bit. And if you're going much faster, then you probably want to watch out, because you may be approaching a wall very soon where it's going to start to get difficult. But at least if you can see the data, then you know to expect that, and you know the reason for it, and you can adjust accordingly. Once you are in that sweet spot where you're losing body fat at that rate every single week, then all you want to do is stay the course for long enough that you reach your goal. It really just is a patience game, because you can't speed things up any more than that. And so this is why it's so important to make it fun, simple, and really easy. Because when you remove all the downsides of hitting a calorie deficit, you still eat the foods that you want to eat and enjoy your days as you normally would, just with a slight reduction in the total calories consumed. Then you actually give yourself a chance of keeping it up for long enough to get there. And if you've got a serious amount of body fat to lose, it's going to be at least 12 weeks consecutively. Never going to sacrifice a quarter of the year just to get a bit leaner. But that's more of a behavioral change thing. We can talk about that more in another video. So that's the micro level. If your fat loss is unsustainable, then the solution is literally to eat more on a daily basis so that you can keep it up. On a macro level then, we talk about reaching this 12-week mark. If you get the first bit right and have success sustaining your deficit, as I said, you get to this sort of 12-week mark and you might also find that it starts to get hard. Even though you're going at the right pace, you're eating a good amount, you're making it a sustainable process. This is where we want to make sure we keep our fat loss contained on a big picture level. And so what that looks like is keeping fat loss periods to 12 weeks or less at a time. And the reason for this is that hitting calorie deficit for long periods of time, we start to still see those changes in hormones and in our body's regulation mechanisms that start to work against us and start to try and slow the fat loss process down when we get to kind of this 3-month length of fat loss. And so the way that we can adjust for this is simply by breaking up our efforts into these distinct periods of 12 weeks or less. And now 12 weeks is still long enough at our proper average effective pace to lose 6 kilos. So it's a significant amount of time. It's a significant amount of fat loss. But as I said, if you've got more to lose, it still might not be enough. And that is completely fine. All you want to do is break up your stints. So you get to 12 weeks, go back and practice eating at maintenance. Get comfortable at your new baseline of lower body fat. Eat more. Enjoy feeling better and training and let yourself reset. You can do that for about 2 weeks and you'll feel so much better and more comfortable. And then from that new place of satisfaction and higher energy, you can then go and start a new period. And considering every 12-week block is going to get you 6 kilos leaner, it's only going to be a very finite number of those periods that you'll need to get to literally your goal level of body fat for now. And the limit that you will find is the level of leanness that you can get to at your current level of muscle mass before you start to look skinny and feel trash. Not as a result of the fat loss process itself, but as a result of your body weight. And so from there, once you reach that, it's a fantastic place to be because it means you've succeeded with fat loss. And now the next step is all about gaining muscle and strength and getting bigger and stronger. And as you do that over time, the level of body fat that you can sit at comfortably without any effort gets leaner and leaner and leaner. And so that's the great part. Once you've reached kind of your initial goal, from then on it becomes all about strength and muscle gain. And as you build that muscle, you just get leaner and leaner over time. So that's how you can lose body fat consistently by literally eating more food. First step is make sure you get that strength training and protein intake right. Then make sure you're eating enough so you can keep it up. And don't try and keep it up for more than 12 weeks. Get those things right. You can get as lean as you want. If you want help with the strength and muscle building side of things, check this video out.